Yeah, good morning, all of you. Today, I just want to give you an introduction about narrative writing. I think right from our childhood, we are used to reading books, right? Can you share with me some of your favorite stories that you have read? Yeah, that's all. Yeah. So, good to know that all of you have this wonderful reading habit, right? So, if you are into this reading, I think the narrative writing would be pretty easier for you. And moreover, I think when we are in the habit of narrating incidents, right? Don't you go home and share your experiences of the day with your parents? Of course you do, right? Yeah, absolutely. Everyone does it. Not only children, even we working ladies or even men, whatever happens. Sometimes some are in the habit of sharing whatever happens in the even in the workspace, right? We do share that. So when we are sharing it, of course, we are narrating the incident. Of course, the narrative technique comes there. So overall, I think in our day-to-day life, this is a technique that we have been continuously using it. But when all of a sudden, if somebody asks you to go for narrative writing, then you'll be like, oh my lord, what all should be included? Something that we are doing unknowingly, but when it comes to certain format, we stay aghast, right? So that shouldn't happen. I'm not going to introduce something. I mean, I'm not going to put forth something that is the things that are quite alien to you. But on the other hand, I try to, refresh certain things that is already imprinted in your brain. Okay, that is my task today. Okay, I think that we both will have a good interactive session so that this topic becomes very lighter and it can be delivered in the most appropriate manner. Yeah. Now, when it comes to narrative writing, there are so many kinds of narrative writing. First of all, let's take the linear narrative. What do you mean by linear? I think if you know the meaning of the word linear, it will be quite easy for you to pick up what does it mean, right? What is linear? The linear narrative means it must be in a chronological order, right? It happens in most of the movies. If the movie is not in the linear track, what will happen? You'll be like, oh my lord, what is happening? I don't get the head and tail of what is happening in the story, right? So that complexity, most of the directors, they try to prevent it because brain is a complex structure and they don't want to make it more complicated. It's something, film is something that should be reachable to everyone. It's a mass communication, right? So of course, what happens is they follow this linear track, that is following, the events are placed in sequence. They are placed one after another. All the historical narrations, your independent story, that will be with a date, right? Will be of course with an year also. So then they are following what? The linear structure. Now if it is a non-linear, of course you know what it is. It's not placed in order. Okay, it will be one most sometimes flashback stories in films also, you must have gone through this non-linear kind of writing, right? So there what is given more importance is the perspectives and emotions of the protagonist. That will be given more importance. Again, you have the viewpoint narrative. The viewpoint narrative is something which is not plot driven, but it is character driven. You know what is a plot? The story. The story only. What is a story actually? Yeah, you're right. It's a sequence of events. So if it is not plot driven, if it is character driven, as I told you earlier, as in the case of the non-linear form, here also the importance is given for the emotions and perspectives of the character. Okay. Now, after this, that is emphasis is given on the character rather than the plot. Then you have a descriptive narrative. In descriptive narrative, you can describe everything, the characters, the objects, everything can be described. So this is what happens in most of your examination point of view, the descriptive narrative. is something that always fall into place, right? And what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to describe everything. So this vivid imagery can be used. It is the place where I think that you can employ all your language calibers. You can use figurative languages like similes, personification, onomatopoeias, metaphor, whatnot, right? All this can be employed here in figurative languages, can be employed in description. You can describe the protagonist, you can describe the objects, everything. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you can describe the whole restaurant, the ambience, everything, right? How it appears. I mean, all emotions, all feelings that can be exploited here. I think you have more liberty there rather than the linear form of narration. Descriptive narration is quite easy, I think so. And where you have more space to explore. Okay? And then when you talk about narrative writing, the most important things that come into place is, of course, what? In a story, let us make it very simple. In a story, what do you come across? Of course, the plot, the story, right? There must be a plot. Without a plot, some of the films, it becomes flop. So a plot must be there, story must be there, okay? Or an event should be there, correct? What else? Okay, and then comes what? The character. Are they all falling into the good books? No, obviously never, right? Every way it happens. Some are in the good books and some are, what is it? So some are falling into the bad, some are falling into the good category. Okay, so those who are falling into the best category, they are the characters can be any. They can be either good or bad. But the best one is the protagonist, right? And what is the just opposite of that? Antagonist. Okay, so of course in a story means these two will be there, right? Mostly 98% you have a protagonist and an antagonist, and then you have the group of set of people who are attached to the protagonist and attached to the antagonist, right? The event is also turn up in the same way. Again you have and there are certain engaging characters also, because they want the audience to be engaged, right? Some fun element, some mocking element, or whatever it is, to make the time fillers. That also should happen if it is a drama, if it is a film, even in a story, correct? A kind of deviation, but at the same time they are engaging. Okay, and then what else you have? Other than that plot, the characters, they are very predominant in of course a sequence of events. And I told you can either choose the linear form, non-linear form, the descriptive form, whichever that comes into your place, and you can turn it into a wonderful stories, right? I think most of you are wonderful story writers, right? And let's explore this narrative writing in detail. How does the beginning of your story, what is the importance of the beginning of your story? Is it very important? Why do you think the beginning of a story is important? Of course you are right, it is the hook, right? Only the best impression is the first impression is the best impression, right? So only if you are able to hook the reader in the beginning, you can have him be after you throughout the story. So it's in your hands. Am I right? So the good beginning will help your readers be with you. Otherwise, what will happen? If the beginning is not good, if it is a kind of they feel it's monotonous, what happens? They will just close the book and go off, right? That shouldn't happen. Even in films, if the beginning is not good, after the interval you will not have audience. All you can see just blank seats. Should that happen? No, never, right? Nobody wishes to have that. So you can go for this. Okay, a good beginning is the best way to keep your readers engaged, or to keep your readers hooked. So make it as impressive as possible. And then comes the middle. What is happening in the middle of the story? Yeah, that's right. Middle is where the climax happens, right? You can see the protagonist in a sort of tensed. Okay, so many conflicts are happening there in the story. You have the protagonist in a very what should I say, in a complex atmosphere, right? Not so relaxed. So that is what is intended in the middle, where you are like whether he will take the right turn or left turn. You are he's also confused. Even the audience are like, okay, they were very eagerly waiting to know what is going to happen the next. So the climax also should be really a good climax. It shouldn't be like something that is predictable. That is very important. Okay, and then comes what? The ending. What kind of ending do you all like? Yeah, we all like happy stories, right? We want happy endings. Okay, whatever is it, happy endings, a reunion or whatever it is, we need everything. If something is going wrong, we'll be like, okay, shedding tears. I think especially women. No, it's not gender biased. Feelings are equal, universal, right? It need not be that boys will not cry and girls are crying. It's nothing like that. The emotion content, but maybe the girls are more expressive than the boys. That's all. But anyway, the good ending also, it should be like what? Ending also, it can be a if it is taking a bad ending, you call it as what? Yeah, it is tragic, right? A tragedy. And if it is having a good ending, yeah, it ends in a comedy, or you can say it need not be a comedy. Comedy, where fun element is more, you call it as comedy. Where you have a good ending, then you have a happy ending. Okay, so this I have just brushed up all the main ingredients of this narrative writing, and we'll go in detail. Okay, we'll take up each section in detail and find out how it is going to work out. So I want you to know the differentiation in narrative, the kinds of narrative writing. So when you read a piece of narrative writing, you must be able to identify to which category does it fall into. You must be able to justify why is it so. Okay, so thank you.